on the wire.
One, two, three, four. They've got the system, you're out on your own. They got ways to make it seem like they're right, and you're always wrong. They got the power of the press behind them. They can control what enters in our minds, and they can let your lonely heart sink like a stone. You are not alone. You are not alone. There are many of us walking around here carrying our scars, and we know just what it feels like when the times are hard. There are so many of us out there on our side. We got the numbers, we just need to organize. But if you feel your spirit sinking, grab the phone. You are not alone. You are not alone. You are not alone. You are not alone. It's ironic if you think about it. They're just people too. They don't know it, but the time has come when the system's gonna do it like they're doing you. You must admit that it's an education, but it's hard on a young one's dreams. It's no picnic finding out the folks you trusted were not quite what they seem. Now you know it, but don't let your anger burn. Chalk it up to just another lesson learned. Rise above it and remember everywhere you go, you are not alone. You are not alone. You are not alone. You are not alone.
Back in the old days in the East Village, you would order cat food from a pet store and wait for a burly Albanian guy to deliver it. Now, of course, such tasks are effectuated by computerized drones. Anyway, the following song is about the question, while you're waiting for the cat food delivery, should you have sex? It's called Waiting for the Cat Food to Come.
We're lying around, it's Saturday afternoon. You're looking at me, I'm looking at you. We're waiting for the
The cat food's supposed to come between 12 and 2, and now it's noon, and we have to decide what to do. Should we have sex or wait for the cat food? What if it comes before we do? Waiting for the cat food to come. Waiting for the cat food to come.
Each time you put your hand on my thigh, or I put my thigh on your hand, we have to try to understand if we're about to hear the cat food man carrying the cat food cans.
Now we're lying on the bed. We've had sex, and it's still not 2. I've come and you've come too, but where's the cat food? Where's the cat food? Waiting for the cat food to come. Waiting for the cat food to come. Waiting for the cat food to come. Waiting for the cat food to come.
That hat has done things to Eileen's head. Yeah, good. I mean, well, never have you been so loving towards me. My God. Oh my God. That's fucking amazing, Eileen. Wait a minute. I'm just gonna go home. I'm just gonna go home and write in my diary. Eileen and I are the same age, and so here's a little story. So for years, Eileen and I were like oil and water. I was always like trying to be friendly to her, but she's a kind of negative thing going on. And then one day I walked into an empty coffee shop. Yes, I, who didn't drink coffee at the time, walked into an empty coffee shop, and it was a long bowling alley of a coffee shop with nobody in it. And as I walked in the farther recess of darkness, I saw Eileen. And I thought, oh, fuck. So I walked up and I said, hi, Eileen. And Eileen said, it's my birthday. And I said, oh, really? I said, happy, or it might have been the other way around, might have been my birthday. But it was one of our birthdays. And she said, and how old are you? And I said, I'm 50. And Eileen said, oh my God, we're the same age. And after that, we were cool. So my sense is not wrong. My sense earlier today and yesterday and the day before was that 2018 was going to be a year of exhilaration. I really feel that. I feel a kind of bubbling exhilaration underneath everything. And so I didn't go out last night. I had a date with Ray Donovan and Amazon. It didn't turn out well for Ray. A few years ago, like 10 years ago, I was in Los Angeles at the Bodhi Tree Bookstore, a longtime cultural landmark in Los Angeles, now closed because of gentrification. And I did what I've always done in bookstores, and I'm sure many of you do this too. I was just in there standing around waiting for a book. I have very rarely gone to a bookstore looking for a specific book. No, I go to a bookstore looking for a book that may be looking for me. And a book called me off the shelf of the Bodhi Tree Bookstore, and I took it down and I opened it just anywhere as you would an oracle, and my eyes fell upon these words: as far as your spiritual evolution is concerned, your relationship with other people has almost nothing to do with it. I'm going to repeat that. As far as your spiritual evolution function is concerned, your relationship with other people has almost nothing to do with it. And I had a complete meltdown because my entire life I have sought out the most amazing people, the most exceptional people, the most interesting people. I believed for decades of my life that in order to evolve, in order to actually develop, I needed to be in the presence of amazing people. So at the age of 57, I realized for the first time that all I had been doing for decades was avoiding my relationship with myself. Then I thought about all my romantic relationships, all that suffering, all that drama, all that pain and confusion, and I realized that for years, I had been torturing perfectly nice people. Torturing and tormenting perfectly nice people who couldn't give me what I needed. I mean, I would focus on one person, and if that person couldn't give me what I needed, would I leave them? Never! I would torture them till they left me. I would say, you're the only person who can love me. I have to have this love from you. If you don't give me this love, then there isn't any love for me in the whole world. And if you give me this love that I so desperately need, only from you, I'll help you. Because you have a lot of potential, but face it, you're just like wasting your life. Then I thought, who gives you the best birthday presents? You. Who knows what you really want for Christmas? You. Who knows what you want in bed the second you want it? You. Who thinks every idea you have is great? You. Who never says, oh really, Penny? Who always says, great idea, Penny, let's do it. What was I doing? Wasting my time trying to merge with all those other people. Now, all these years later, I realize that no matter how much love each of us has in our own life, we are actually on our own journey alone. People, I am talking about amore fati. Amore fati, the love of your own fate. Many people ask me, Penny Arcade, how did you survive your life? And when I try to think of it, I can only say, well, I think because I embraced all the tragedy and all the pain in my life with the same curiosity, with the same enthusiasm that I embraced joy. Did I like it? No, I'm not a fucking masochist. But did it teach me what it means to be human? Did it help me jump out of that paradigm? Oh, something bad happened early in my life. Now I have to always be sad. Wait, something good happened today, but what will I do when that little happiness runs out? I'm scared. I am talking about amore fati, the love of your own destiny. Your own destiny, yes. No, this is not Oprah kind of like New Age crap. I'm talking about something that I bled through, that I am bringing to you. When you embrace your life exactly the way it is, exactly the way it has been, there are no mistakes. That's when you have power over your life. I am talking about your self-respect. Do I dare stand here at the Poetry Project and talk about self-respect? Yes, I do. Your self-respect is a living thing. Your self-respect is a terrible thing to lose. Your self-respect will atrophy if you do not use it. The world will try to siphon off your self-respect on a daily basis in exchange for status, in exchange for fitting in exchange for going along. Happiness? Happiness is a decision that you make. Happiness is not magic. You make a decision to be happy. I'm even happy when I'm miserable. Yes, because it's my misery. And I farm my misery till it becomes happiness, or I kick it to the curb. I don't need anyone to make me happy. I am already happy. And so are all of you. We are all already happy. We don't need anyone to make us happy. We need other people to share our happiness with. There's nowhere to hide from the innate sorrow of being human, from the longing that is intrinsic to our humanity, the longing that makes us different from our brothers and sisters, the animals. What's that, Penny? The knowledge that we will die, that those we love will die, that nothing ever remains the same. Nothing good and nothing bad ever remains exactly the same. Joy, pleasure, gratitude, individuality, authenticity, those are our only weapons in the face of certain death and annihilation, in the face of cultural amnesia, in the face of the erasure of history, in the face of the creeping, oncoming totalitarianism. Many people give up. They say, what can I do? Many of us ask ourselves, what can we do? Own your life. Be the person who carries the history. Protect your authenticity. That is where synchronicity springs from. And your authenticity, as you become older, is a great comfort. It gives you a place to stand and live in your gratitude. Why? Because that's where the magic is. Happy New Year.
Oh yeah. So, the fucking memoir. God. Let's see. Make sure I got this right. This is from the memoir. There's sort of a semi-famous story. Semi-famous because neither myself or Townes Van Zandt we're both semi-famous. But I had really good teachers, and I was lucky enough to run into some people that do what I do and did it really well when I was really young, and one of them was Townes. And I'd been stalking him around Texas for a couple of years, and then there's sort of a story I've told a lot about playing a place called the Oak Quarter in Houston, and looking down, there's 4 or 5 people playing in the place, and Townes is sitting right in front of me with his feet on the stage, and yelling about, "Play the Wabash Cannonball." And he never yelled when I was actually singing, but as I kept going between every song, "Play the Wabash Cannonball." And then finally, it was like, I had to admit I didn't know the fucking Wabash Cannonball. And so he went on about it, and then I played a song called Mr. Mud and Mr. Gold. It was his, it has a lot of words, and only about 3 people on the planet know besides me, and then he shut up. So this is about what happened after that. The Old Quarter was a bar in downtown Houston, and it had been a lot of things. It was one of the places I heard about before I got to Houston from San Antonio that some of my heroes were playing. And it was also a front for Dale Sopar and Rex Bell's marijuana business. And that's the only way the money was actually made there. So I played my set. Townes is heckled. I've been heckled by my hero for over an hour. And I finally go to the bar, and I don't know whether Townes is still on the premises or not. And there was I went and asked if there was any pot around, which was a rhetorical question, because what that meant was I didn't have any money, and I wanted to smoke some pot. And Dale Sopar directed me up to the roof, and this sort of picks up there. It says, "I made the 2 flights of stairs up to the pool room in a half-dozen bounds, climbed out the window to the roof to find Smiley Harris passing a big fat joint to his brother Daryl. Daryl and Smiley Harris didn't look like brothers. Smiley had the look of a beach bum, sun-bleached straight blonde hair hanging down past his shoulders, while Daryl was darkly handsome and relatively clean-cut against the backdrop of the former speakeasy turned dive bar turned folk music mecca that was the Old Quarter. But the Harrises were inseparable and co-managed a quadruplex on Truxillo Street that also housed the owner, Dale Sopar. And the Truxillo Arms, as it was known, was part of the legend by the winter of '72 because it was where Townes would lay his head whenever he was in town. Daryl took a long, slow pull on the joint, then handed it off to me. "Nice set," he rasped, trying to hold his breath, but too late. The pot was strong, and that little bit of extra air was all it took. His lungs convulsed in a coughing fit, and blue smoke issued from what seemed like every hole in his head. Smiley shook his head disapprovingly at the waste of dope. "You gonna talk or you gonna smoke?" And then to me, "Yeah, good set, man." I shrugged my thanks and held on to my hit. Daryl cocked his head to peer around at something behind me and motioned me closer. And I finally exhaled and a wave of relief washed over me as tetrahydrocannabinol collided with my cerebral cortex and I leaned into whispering range. And he said, you know, he didn't mean anything by all that, don't you? It was only then that I realized that Towns was there, sitting on the edge of the roof with his feet dangling over the edge. Daryl was watching him closely. God damn it, Towns, don't you even think about it. Daryl was Towns' oldest friend, and he had endured the aftermath of too many of his stunts. The fall ain't far enough to kill you, and I ain't wagging you around when you're fucking paralyzed. Towns squinted back over his shoulder through one eye, which at the time I attributed to inebriation because I had yet to learn that drunk or sober, Towns couldn't see shit without his glasses. It was a moment before I realized that he was looking at me. He crooked a finger, and I proffered the joint, assuming that was what he wanted, but he shook his head and patted the patch of tar paper next to him. I handed him the joint and Smiley and gingerly joined Towns on the edge. He produced a pint of Ezra Brooks sour mash whiskey from inside his jacket, passed it to me, and I took a healthy swig and I handed it back. Now, I'd been drinking whiskey straight whenever I drank it since I was 15, but alcohol was still my least favorite drug. When the joint came around to me again, I hit it, and Towns once more declined and took a pull on the bottle instead. He nodded towards the police department parking garage across the street. The structure resembled a forlorn industrial dollhouse, no walls, and an airy synthesis of neon vapor streetlights, and a full moon beamed in from behind and illuminated the parking spaces on the far side, so you could clearly see what was happening over there, but nothing was. Towns said, "There's a rat over there, the size of a Jack Russell Terrier. Been watching him for years," Towns said. I kept to myself that I was fairly certain that rats lived only a couple of years at most, which was unusual for me as I was already addicted to being right, if nothing else. What was important to me at the time was that Towns Van Zandt was talking to me, and something truer and infinitely more profound was sure to follow. He always turns up just after shift change, once all the blue and whites roll out, comes from somewhere over there behind the garage. Reckon he crosses from one of the other buildings on the telephone lines. You know, that's how they board chips. Norway rats just tiptoe across like fucking flying Melindas. Then he works his way down one floor at a time, scurries from parking space to parking space, and then when he gets to the bottom, I waited for a revelation, but the oracle fell silent. He was intent on the structure across the street, and I watched too, but I saw only trash, sandwich wrappers, and potato chip bags and such blowing around like miniature urban tumbleweeds here and there. And it occurred to me that there might be more than whiskey in that bottle, and I nearly worked up the nerve to ask for another pull when Towns elbowed me semi-gently in the ribs and pointed. "Look," he whispered, "third floor, on the right, see him?" And I did see him in silhouette, but unmistakably a big, fat fucking rat traveling low and fast, dragging a tail that more than doubled his overall length. He stopped, feeding evidently on something he'd found in one of the empty parking spaces, then hurried along, showing a little here and a little there, but never stopping again until he reached the shadows in the back left corner of the garage, and then he was gone. And I was in. We watched for another half hour, but the rat never came back. Towns kept the last couple of fingers of the pint to himself and drank it silently, except for the last swallow, which he poured out over the edge. "That's where the poison is," he explained, "the bottom of the bottle." Then he winked and punctuated this last bit of folklore, as he often did, with a sort of clicking sibilant sound that emanated from the corner of his mouth like the closing of a lock. Dale had finished closing the bar, joined Daryl, Smiley, and myself, and fired up one last joint for the road. And when it was gone, Daryl stepped in behind Towns and offered his hand. Towns grasped it without even looking up, pulled himself up until he stood with the toes of his moccasins literally hanging over the precipice. For an instant, he leaned forward, letting Daryl take his weight, like a mountaineer testing a rope, but Daryl had obviously expected and braced himself. He pulled Towns back and turned him around and patted him on the back, and I was reminded of a father helping a kid down from a jungle gym. My set was never mentioned, and Townsend and I didn't talk about music at all that night. I've always believed that I had so much as brought up the subject that I would have been instantly 86 from the entourage, and my eldest son's middle name would be Dylan. In the weeks that followed, there was some talk about songwriters and their songs. Peter Lafarge and Ian Tyson came up, but not about the process of songwriting itself. There were occasional discourses on guitar players, especially Lightnin' Hopkins and Doc Watson, but everything I ever learned about playing guitar from Townes, which is nearly everything, I learned from watching and listening and then applying what I observed later in private. Poets like Robert Frost, Pablo Neruda, and Shakespeare, and writers of prose, both factual and fictional, such as Gore Vidal and Graham Greene, were invoked far more than musicians, and I took any and every mention of an author or a title, no matter how passing, as a homework assignment. It would be years before Townes and I had any conversations directly related to our own craft. Still, I was certain I had accomplished precisely what I had set out to do. I found Townes Van Zandt, and I had passed an initiation of sorts, and I had entered into an apprenticeship.
The last time she peed on me. The last time she peed on me. Oh, fuck. Her heart wasn't in it, and the light inside of me died. The last time she peed on me. The last time she peed on me. I knew it was over, and I cried and I cried and I cried. The last time she peed on me. The last time she peed on me. Last time she peed on me. The last time she peed on me. She didn't care. She didn't even try to disgrace me. The last time she peed on me. The last time she peed on me. She didn't aim for my mouth. She didn't even aim for my face. The last time she peed on me. The last time she peed on me. The last time she peed on me. The last time she peed on me, it was if we had both agreed that this would be the last time she would pee on me. Thank you.
That's called There Was a Bad Tree. There was a bad tree that everyone hated. The leaves gave off a foul smell, and the flowers had a bitter stink. If you got too close, you vomited. The fruit was poison. One bite and you were dead. Everyone really disliked it. The bad tree stunk. They talked endlessly about it and came to a big decision. get rid of it. They chopped with axes and barely made a dent, wearing breathing masks. They whacked at it and nibbled and chipped. Oily powder from the shiny dark green leaves got on their skin, blistered and was really itchy, and they scratched bloody red. They put on protective gear with oxygen and went at it with electric buzzsaws and heavy equipment. Working 24-hour shifts, finally they cut it down. Everyone was very happy and celebrated the great victory, a noble deed well done, and they went to bed exhausted. The next morning, the bad tree grew back, sprung up new and bigger and more beautiful and ugly. It was very depressing. They talked a lot about it and cut it down again and poured gasoline on the roots and burned all the leaves and branches in a big fire. After the smoldering embers got cold, the tree grew back, more bigger, more bad, and really gorgeous. Other people had been watching from their houses, waiting their turn. They thought themselves smarter, with higher intellectual capabilities. They knew how to get rid of the tree. It was a growing plant, a wood tree that grew in the ground. They incinerated it, burned the roots with chemicals, vaporizing acids, and robotic lasers. Detonated on the ground, bombed from the air, hit with smart missiles, and bombarded with radiation. They made a firestorm and covered the ground with concrete and steel. The tree grew back, more fresh, more elegant, even gracious, and really ugly. The wood was harder, darker, thick, hot muscle, and the leaves, full and lush, moved like underwater plants luxuriously in the breeze. It was extremely depressing, extremely discouraging, a catastrophe. They had made for themselves a hell world. They talked incessantly about it and came to a big decision. The mayor resigned in disgrace, and those who had worked so hard left humiliated, moved to the other side of town, stayed away. Then, out of the blue, appeared these beautiful people. They were simple and humble and a little like peacocks and seemingly well-intentioned with a great sense of humor. Radiantly relaxed, oozing loving kindness and compassion, they walked right up and started eating the leaves. They ate the leaves and enjoyed them, became happy, and laughed and chomped on more leaves. You could tell they really liked the taste. They pressed their cheeks to the flowers, black velvet coated with transmission oil. They licked the sweet juices that seeped from the petals. The pollen was coal dust and petroleum gas. Burying their noses, they sucked in deep breaths, eating the smell. Great bliss. They discovered the fruit hidden beneath the leaves, overripe mangoes with sticky eggplant skin hung like testicles. And inside the fruit was rotting meat like a liver. The special people got their faces into the stinking slime and really got into it, inhaling with their lips and teeth and tongues. They licked and drank the thick red juice. The seeds, like cabochon rubies, seemed particularly potent and were chewed with great delight. The fruit contained the 5 wisdoms. The beautiful men and women became luminous. Their skin was golden and their bodies, almost transparent, were clothed in shimmering rainbow lights. They became sleepy, yawned, and curled up under the tree and took a nap. While they slept, music filled the air, lounging against the gnarled tree trunk and protruding roots. Their huge bodies, colored red, yellow, blue, green, white, rested in great equanimity and radiated huge compassion. Inside the tree was the secret home of many demigods, hungry ghosts, and earth spirits who were very pleased with all the positive attention being paid them. After years of abuse, mutilation, and destruction, they were thrilled, even though they were being ravaged and their flowers wrecked. At the root endings, there were jewels, diamonds and emeralds and rubies, which were stars in the sky of the world below. The beautiful men and women woke up and nibbled on the leaves again. They ate the leaves like deer, pausing between bites, looking up at the vast, empty sky. The leaves and fruit increased their clarity and bliss and introduced the nature of primordially pure wisdom mind.
My name's Steve Earle, because I feel there's a little too much intersectionality here. But I'm always pleased when I get to fellowship with Jews and homosexuals, which I assume are pretty much all of y'all. But I just want to say, being the true believer that I am, that you may know it or you may not, but the reason he is so pervasive is because he is in us. He is within all of us. He is the light that burns within us. And I don't mean Jesus Christ, I mean Donald J. Trump is the light that burns within all of us. That's why we are so obsessed. That's why we can't stop watching him. That's why we turn on every time Lawrence O'Donnell opens his fucking stupid, fucking cock-sucking, fucking liberal, insane. I know I can't say transgender, but I can say retard. I can say retard, because that's what Lawrence O'Donnell is. That's what I can say about him. And Rachel Maddow, who I won't say is somewhere in that aura of deviant behavior. But, and I say that with love, but I also say that I'm so glad that the New York Times has finally come around and has had articles about trying to understand the people who voted for Donald J. Trump, which I assume none of you did. Too bad. He's here. He ain't going nowhere. You can have Robert Mueller and all those unicorns. That ain't going to pan out because because MSNBC wants him just as much as Fox wants him, just as much as Hannity wants him, Chris Matthews wants him. He wants him in the way that Harvey Weinstein wants a plant. He wants him that much. And we want him too. We don't know it. But that's why we're attracted to him. He's part of us. He's in us. And as long as he's in us, he'll be up there. So let's show him how much we love him. Let's have a little sympathy for him. Stop beating on him. Stop berating him for every misspelling that he does, which are several, I know. But for every grammatical error, for every factual error, let's understand that there's a reason. And that reason lies in here. We all hate what we are. So let's love. Let's love. Let's love him. And let's love ourselves. And this is a song that was written in 1968 about this very thing. Mick Jagger and Keith Richards were very prescient when they wrote this. Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. Been around for a long year. So many men, soul and faith. I was around when Jesus Christ had his moment of doubt and pain. Big damn sure that Pilate washed his hands to seal his fate. Pleased to meet you, well, I hope you guess my name. Oh yeah. Well, what's puzzling you is just the nature of my game. Stuck around St. Petersburg when I saw it was a time for a change. Well, I killed the Tsar and his ministers. Anastasia screamed in vain. I rode a tank at the general's rank when the blitzkrieg raged and the bodies stank. Pleased to meet you, well, I hope you guess my name. I'm meeting, but what's confusing you is just the nature of my game. Let's pick it up, man. I watched thee while your kings and queens fought for 10 decades for the gods they made. I shouted out, who killed the Kennedys? When, after all, it was you and me and Lee. Let me please introduce myself. Well, I'm a fan of wealth and taste. I hit traps for troubadours who get help before they reach a bomb there. Y'all know it. Pleased to meet you, and I hope you guess my name. I'm waiting. What's confusing you is just a nature of my game. Oh yeah. Just as every cop is a criminal, and all the sinners saints. As heads is tails, just call me Lucifer, 'cause I'm in need of some restraint. So if you meet me, have some courtesy, have some sympathy.